Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. Due to YouTube's changing quote-unquote community standards, I created a channel called Grumpy Old Fart over on Rumble, a free speech alternative to YouTube. You can see all of my stuff over there, including my political and social commentary, as well as my current events videos. The links to my YouTube and Rumble channels, as well as links to let you order my books, are in the description of this video. If you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. Now, on with the video. Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing an Advanced Dungeons & Dragons advice video on control freaks. This is a video for Dungeon Masters as well as for players. I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for 47 years, and I have run into both game masters and players who try to run everything, including the game and the other players, all at the same time. Some of my favorites, a dungeon master who insisted on rolling all the dice for every player as well as the monsters. I told him I roll my own dice. He replied, "Not in my game." I grabbed my stuff and said, "No problem, you guys have fun," and I left. I roll my own dice. Everybody is welcome to witness my die rolls, but I roll my own dice. A player who tried to explain to me how my monsters would attack and why they wouldn't attack his character. I was the dungeon master, and after several times telling him that I was the dungeon master and he was a player, I finally asked him not to return. Because he was getting mad and trying to turn other players against me and against my game. It wasn't working, but he was creating a problem. So I asked him not to return. A dungeon master who tried to tell me and all the other players what my characters were going to do and why. He had no players after his first session. Yeah, nobody. When the dungeon master's trying to tell everybody how to run their characters and what to do, yeah, it's time to go. A dungeon master who explained that 4 successive crits by 4 different characters did not hit because his storyline trumps the rules. And he had spent too long creating the bad guys to let them die that easily. Yeah, it's time to go. When 4 different player characters crit one right after the other and none of them hit, it's time to go. He couldn't give a reason why they didn't hit. He just didn't want his big bad guy to die so easy. You can't control that. A dungeon master can't even control that. Dungeon Master can't tell his players what to do. He's just the DM. Dungeon Master can't cheat like that. Dungeon Masters have to obey the rules too, you know. A Dungeon Master who got insanely angry when the player characters defeated his monsters. Oh, he got mad. I remember at one point, he threw his dice box at one of the players. Yeah, it was time to go. A dungeon master who told the players their abilities didn't work because he was afraid they were going to kill his bad guy. That's along the same lines as the other guy. A player who, quote-unquote, created a character that could literally do everything and had no weaknesses with an armor class of -35. And for those of you who don't play the original Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, you play like 3.5 or 5th edition, the lower the armor class, the better. Getting an armor class below 0 is difficult. This guy's armor class starting out at first level was -35. Yeah, he didn't run that character in my game. That wasn't going to happen. He couldn't justify any of it. He happened to generate that character. He created that character. And it was all legal. No, it wasn't. A player who had a 6th level fighter that he wanted to join into my game with 650 hit points. Again, not in my game. And much of this is just flat out cheating. So, you know, a player who tried to explain to me how my monsters couldn't affect his character and how his character could do almost everything. You get that sometimes, and most of the time it's easy to fix. This guy wasn't letting it be fixed, and so this guy left. He didn't play in my game anymore. A player who joined my game and tried to bring in a character with a sword that shot, no shit, supernovas. Yeah. No, that didn't happen. Now, here's the sad part. This guy had played with another dungeon master And he'd actually gotten that sword in that Dungeon Master's game. So technically it was legal for him to have that sword. Given the blast radius of a supernova, I seriously doubt he ever used it. And if he did, I'd like to know why it didn't kill everybody around him. See, that's the problem when you get into the fantastical stuff like that. It's a fantasy game, but when you get into the fantastical stuff like that, the laws of physics get thrown by the wayside. And on top of that, it really unbalances the game. So I said the character's okay, but that sword you can't use. It would destroy my entire game, including the world. Anyway, now I try not to tell other dungeon masters how to run their game. I give advice on this channel to try to help out the less experienced gamers, but I make it clear that everyone is free to ignore my advice. But when a dungeon master is a control freak, it spoils the enjoyment for the players. Likewise, when a dungeon master plays favorites, that's always a bad one. I was joining a game where the dungeon master's wife was a player. Her player character was 3 levels higher than everyone else because he heaped experience on her, and she had tons of magic items and abilities that nobody else had. I lasted 1 game session. It's one thing if a player does more and is more involved and like that, that's one thing, but I can see a little extra experience. But when you're low level and she's 3 levels higher because she happens to be the dungeon master's wife, yeah, it's time to go. And those magic items, most of them she couldn't even use. She just had them because the dungeon master gave them to her. When a player is a control freak, it spoils the entire game. That player is constantly at odds with everyone, players and the dungeon master, and the dungeon master has to continuously deal with that mess instead of running the game. It becomes a shit show. I had a player who insisted that his player character could take on an entire army single-handedly. He wasn't self-sacrificing for a noble cause. He really thought his 3rd level thief could beat 8,000 fighters. When the 16th attack finally killed him, I had lots of misses. He was angry with me. He felt my bad guys were overpowered. I gave him every opportunity to avoid the fight and escape with the group. He insisted on staying because he honestly felt he could win. The argument after his player character's death was both epic and long. We had to call the game for the night, and ultimately he tried to turn the group against me. He started his own game and had to find all new players. It was a bad situation all around. When you have a player character, a player who refuses to listen to reason, I mean, you give me 1,000 rolls, I'm gonna roll some crits. Ask anybody. Statistically, 1 out of every 20. So in 100 die rolls, 5 of them are going to be crits. That's statistics. You know, control freaks are never good in any game. As a dungeon master, 2 of my favorite sayings and 2 things that no dungeon master should ever be afraid to say are, first, I'm just the DM, I can't tell you what to do. And when a player tells you he's going to do this or that to spite you, your reply should be, that's your decision. As a dungeon master, all you can do is run the world and the NPCs as fairly as you can and judge reactions to what the player characters do accordingly. That's pretty much it. The world is there. If the players do stupid shit, they win stupid prizes. If a player tries to tell you how to run your game, and now I'm not talking suggestions. I'm saying, oh, you have to do this. That character would never do that. You have to do it this way. My character can't be affected by that. Really? How? Well, he just can't. You can't do that. Yeah. It's time to pull him aside and have a talk. If that doesn't work, it's time to pull him aside and say goodbye. That's all you can do. I hope this finds everybody well. And again, I'm not trying to tell people how to run their game. I'm just giving advice from a guy who's been doing this for 47 years. I've been running games since 1979. I'm just trying to help out. If you ignore my advice, amen, and have fun playing D&D. You folks have a good, you're going to hurt my feelings. You folks have a good day now. God bless one and all. Devo Poland, a scientific representative of a pacifist race called the Gandhiri, is sent away as an exchange officer. His objective? To learn the one skill his species never developed, to fight. And he's sent to learn that skill from the one species who does it better than any other in the galaxy, humans. If you like science fiction with an upbeat military tone, check out my novel, Vanguard 1.